Hello and welcome to Valley View News Election Edition. I'm David Reyes.
And I'm Giovanni Galvez.
It's a neck-to-neck race for LA Mayor between Karen Bass and Rick Caruso. NBC News says it's too early to call. New York Times reports with 44% of votes in, Caruso leads with 51.2% of the vote. Bass races with 48.8%. Our reporter Camila Acevedo is in the Grove, Los Angeles with the Caruso campaign.
Rick Caruso spent election night surrounded by family, friends, and supporters at the Grove. He reflected on his supporters' involvement in the campaign.
The dearness of people, the embraces we got, a lot of hugs over the last 9 months, and I don't know, it's something that is very special.
Mariachi music welcomed supporters entering the celebration. Vendors endorsing Caruso served food. Excitement was in the air despite the close race.
This event is great. Everybody here is, is very enthusiastic. It's upbeat, and hopefully that we can carry this smile for the next 4 years.
Caruso ended the night with a speech reviewing his platform, which included plans to solve homelessness and curb crime in Los Angeles.
I think that Rick brings a very good plan to the table, especially for business owners like myself. I just like his plan a little bit better. I feel like he brings something new and different to the table, so that's why I'm supporting Rick.
This is Camila Acevedo reporting at the Grove in Los Angeles for Valley View News.
While our reporter Camila Acevedo was with the Caruso campaign, our Isabella Warren was at the Hollywood Palladium with the Bass team.
We will win! We will win!
Enthusiastic Karen Bass supporters gathered at the Hollywood Palladium for what was going to be a long roller coaster night for her campaign.
I'm excited. I think that many folks are going to be watching Los Angeles and see the tide of the blue that stays here in LA.
Election results were updated live. Clear Democratic winners for the evening were cheered on and celebrated. In the closed mayor's race, Bass supporters had to stay upbeat and hopeful.
Well, we're really excited and we're completely optimistic about Karen Bass being the next mayor of Los Angeles because she took the time to go to each one of our communities, doing it the old school way, talking and knocking on doors.
The Democrats brought in live music and special guests throughout the night. Bass spoke to the more than 800 people gathered about some of her main issues: homelessness, climate change, affordability in Los Angeles, and affordable housing.
Vision of a city that is truly safe, that when crime happens, it's stopped, but where we invest in people and neighborhoods so we make sure that crime doesn't happen in the first place.
Reporting at the Hollywood Palladium, I'm Isabella Warren for Valley View News.
Democrat Gavin Newsom may have won a second term as California's governor. New York Times reports with 42% of votes in, Newsom leads with 57.9% of the vote. Republican Brian Dahle had 42.1% of the vote. Mail-in ballots have a week to arrive.
Democrat Alex Padilla may have won his first full term as a California senator. New York Times report with 41% of votes in, Padilla leads with 59.1%. Republican Mark Mosier had 40.9% of the votes. More than 1/4 of state lawmakers nationwide are expected to lose their seat in this year's election. Some experts think that the number may grow since some votes are still being counted. Changes in term limits, gerrymandering, and many primary defeats all led to the highest turnover in state capitals in a decade. Another reason for high turnover rate was that many office holders chose not to run for re-election this year. Nearly 6,300 state legislative races were contested in 46 states.
The state was pounded with rain and snow on Election Day. The National Weather Service said a tornado landed a few miles outside the town of Galt. The Ontario Fire Department said a fast current in a canal there swept 6 people away and killing 1. The National Weather Service also issued a winter storm warning for the Lake Tahoe area. The service said that a flash flood warning mistakenly went out for a larger area than what they intended. The warning was meant for 1,500 people in the Fish Fire Burn area east of Duarte. Instead, the warning inadvertently covered all of LA County.
The election storm didn't stop the high voter turnout. Valley View News' Savannah Taylor spoke to some of the people who decided to vote early.
As Election Day approached, early voting sites popped up all around Los Angeles County. Digital ballots made voting faster. QR codes and links were posted all around the sites to make the process more accessible. Despite the digital makeover, there were still people who preferred to vote in person. Linda Robinson cast her vote at Southwest Community College.
I usually vote by mail, but I wouldn't want to take no chances, so I'm out in person. That's how important it is to me.
Studies show that about 77% of voters aged 65 and over cast early votes in 2020. 69% of younger voters cast early ballots.
Good morning. Good morning. Yes, please.
Stacy Michelle Letterlow also voted early in person.
Every voice matters. You've got people who'll be like, oh, this person's so bad, but unless you educate yourself and actually come out and vote, then your voice isn't going to count.
With the last election taking place during the pandemic, poll workers say this year's voter turnout is higher than expected. For Valley View News, I'm Savannah Taylor.
Democrat Rob Bonta may have won a full 4-year term as California's Attorney General. New York Times reports with 41% votes in, Bonta leads with 57.2% of the vote. Republican Nathan Hochman has 42.8% of the vote.
Robert Luna may have won the LA County Sheriff's election. The New York Times reports with 42% votes in, Luna leads with 56.8% of the votes. Alex Villanueva has 43.2% of the vote.
4 major propositions were on this year's ballot. Prop 1 guaranteed a fundamental right to reproductive freedom in the state's constitution. It included the right to choose to have an abortion and to refuse or choose contraceptives. Associated Press calls the proposition may have passed. Proposition 29 enacted staffing, reporting, and closing requirements on kidney dialysis clinics. It would have required to have at least one practitioner with 6 months of experience. It would have prohibited clinics from refusing a patient based on the patient's form of payment. Associated Press calls the proposition may have failed. Proposition 26 would have legalized sports betting for adults over the age of 21 and Native American tribal lands. It would have allowed roulette and dice games at tribal casinos, and would have also imposed a 10% tax on wagering profits. Associated Press calls the proposition may have failed.
Proposition 27 would have legalized online sports betting for adults over the age of 21. It would have been an online platform that agreed with Native American tribes. It would have imposed a 10% tax on sporting bet revenues. Our reporter Jesse Barrientos has the rundown.
Proposition 27 was designed to legalize online sports gambling in California. The owners of Prize Picks and DraftKings put a lot of support behind Proposition 27. Brian Garrison gambles on DraftKings. He thinks some of the fears are unfounded.
I think their kids are going to fall into gambling, and if their kids fall into gambling because of that prop being available, then that's more on the parent, as so the law.
There are many downloadable gambling apps in California, but they're mostly fantasy apps. The fantasy apps allow betting over or under on player projections. Players can't bet on who will win a game. Some Prop 27 opposers think gambling can get out of control.
I'm against it because, like I said, I have friends that are addicted to it, and they just do it 24/7 and waste a lot of money on it, so it's not very smart.
People will always find a way to gamble, either through fantasy apps in California or by going to Las Vegas.
I don't, because, it's just like Vegas. Once you turn 21, you'll find it anyway. So why restrict it now?
The fantasy apps also give rewards if players get other people to join and deposit money to an account that they make.
No, I never have, but I've had a couple friends try to convince me to sports gamble.
With 42% of votes in as of Wednesday, Proposition 27 will likely fail, but some believe that a similar proposition will likely appear on the ballot in the next election. I'm Jesse Barrientos, reporting from Northridge for Valley View News.
Homeowners are looking to escape LA and New York. A new study shows that 24.2% of the householders in major cities are looking to relocate to small, less expensive areas. Many people want to alleviate the financial pressure of inflation. Real estate company Redfin reported prior to the pandemic, only 18% of owners said they would change locations. Those looking to buy homes are considering more affordable places like San Diego, Dallas, Phoenix, and Miami. Increasing mortgage rates continue to motivate homeowner migration. Experts say the numbers could possibly drop as the economy evens out.
The number of COVID-19 patients in LA rose. Public health officials raised concern about a potential winter spike. There are 453 people treated in hospitals. 44 of them are in intensive care units. LA County Public Health Director Barbara Freer says the county shows signs of COVID surge this fall and winter. The LA County Department of Health says the average number of infections in a 7-day period rose by 10%. Freer urges people to receive a flu shot and practice hand washing and mask wearing.
The respiratory illness RSV is spiking in Orange County. Our Rocky Rocker has a story.
Orange County declared a health emergency over the unprecedented numbers of virus cases in children. Mostly toddlers are filling up hospitals here suffering from respiratory viruses. The most prevalent is respiratory syncytial virus, known as RSV.
In our current hospital in Orange County, we have 65 children who are in the hospital currently with RSV infections, and 11 of them are in the ICU in critical condition.
These type of respiratory cases are coming earlier in the year than normal. As a result, pediatric hospitals are close to or at capacity. Since these cases usually arrive in late winter, hospitals aren't prepared to treat the high number of young patients they're seeing now.
They're actually converting playrooms and conference rooms into areas where they can see patients. Our emergency rooms are overwhelmed. We're seeing more kids on a daily basis than we've ever seen.
The convergence of flu, COVID, and RSV cases all at once has some in the medical field calling this a triple-demic. Doctors say people should get vaccinated and stay home if sick. Meanwhile, pediatricians are putting in extra work hours just to keep emergency rooms open.
We have urgent care after regular office hours to try to alleviate some of that ER burden.
While there currently is no RSV vaccine available, Pfizer is hoping to roll one out as soon as next year. Reporting for Valley View News from Orange County, I'm Rocky Walker.
A winning ticket for the Powerball lottery jackpot was sold in Altadena, California. The ticket was a record $2.04 billion. The ticket holder is the largest ticket winner ever. The Multi-State Lottery Association says the odds were 1 in 292.2 million.
More to come on Valley View News. North Korea is testing missiles that could strike the U.S. And House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's husband returns home.
Coming up on Valley View News, Santa Clarita approves a $3 million contract for a sports complex.
I'm pretty excited to see what the city has to offer.
Plus, a hidden gem in Panorama City helps people connect with local ecosystems.
They could see where their food scraps are composted, make waste visible again.
And one man creates a smiley landmark.
I did it for you.
Hello and welcome to Valley View News. I'm Camila Acevedo.
And I'm Rocky Walker.
San Bernardino sheriff deputies killed a man suspected of a catfishing and a triple homicide. 28-year-old Austin Lee Edwards was accused of kidnapping a teenage girl. Edwards was a former Virginia state trooper who allegedly catfished the teen online. He allegedly set fire her home, killing her grandparents, 69-year-old Mark Winnick and 65-year-old Sherry Winnick, along with her mother, 38-year-old Brooke Winnick. He fled the scene with the teen in the car and was tracked down by deputies. He then got into a car chase and a shootout with the police and was killed on the freeway. Edwards drove across the country from Virginia to meet the teen in person. Police say she wasn't harmed.
The U.S. men's soccer team is under the spotlight after its social media account posted an altered Iranian flag. The altered flag was missing the revolutionary image of the nation's tricolor official flag, which contains the symbol for Allah. Hours after the original post, the altered flag was replaced with the official Iranian flag. The USSF said it made the alteration to show support for women in Iran who are fighting for basic human rights. Iran wants FIFA to ban the U.S. soccer team from the World Cup play as punishment.
Argentina's star soccer player Lionel Messi headlined in front of nearly 90,000 spectators. It was the largest number of fans to attend a World Cup in 28 years. Argentina beat Mexico 2-0. The match had several hundred more people than two previous games. One was the Brazil-Serbia game, and the other was Argentina's loss to Saudi Arabia. The numbers don't compare in the top 30 of all-time World Cup matches. In 1950, Maracana Stadium in Rio de Janeiro held more than 170,000 spectators for a match. FIFA says the Lusail Stadium will stage the World Cup final on December 18th.
LA County reported 5,244 new COVID cases and 21 more virus-related deaths during a two-day period. The health department is still awaiting official hospitalization numbers. The county recorded 2,337 new cases as of last Friday and 2,907 for last Thursday, a two-day total of 5,244. Official case numbers are believed to be low because some people use at-home tests.
Flu, respiratory syncytial virus, or RSV, and COVID-19 continue to plague Californians earlier than usual this year. State epidemiologist Dr. Erica Pan urges families to protect themselves from the viruses. Officials say prevention is crucial to keeping hospitals open.
In some regions of the country, we're seeing that the hospital system for pediatrics are at the point of almost being overwhelmed.
There's no cure for RSV, but medication can reduce its severity. People should wait 24 hours after symptoms have passed before ending their quarantines.
Health officials are reminding people to implement health precautions this holiday season as flu rates rise. Flu cases are rising because of an increase in gatherings. Doctors say those who get sick and haven't been vaccinated may experience symptoms longer. Professionals recommend gathering outside, wearing a mask when possible, and to stay home if you are sick.
Local governments can get money from the state in order to fight homelessness. The state set aside $1 billion to help localities with the homeless. Governor Newsom had paused funding 2 weeks ago. He wanted to create a more aggressive plan to address the homeless crisis. He claimed the original plan only reduced homelessness by 2% in 4 years. Newsom thinks giving grants directly to local governments will inspire them to be more ambitious. Local leaders must submit a proposal to the state for funds. There are reportedly more than 160,000 homeless people in California.
The city of La Puente was awarded a rehabilitation grant to fix up their park. Valley View News' Giovanni Galvez got to see the new renovations himself.
The city of La Puente spent roughly $20 million in the last 2 years repairing La Puente Park. The renovated park opened in June. Now, visitors rave about how much better it is. Alexis de la Rocha says the money was well spent.
I think that the money that's been invested to this park is 100% worth it. I think that us as human beings, it's really important to be healthy and happy in our hearts, and that in nature and in community is always a go.
Darla Maese believes the community and city workers did a great job refurbishing the park and keeping it clean.
I have my kids enrolled in activities here at the park. It's super safe, super clean. Every morning you'll see people, the workers cleaning, taking off graffiti anywhere they see. This place is immaculate.
During the summer, weekly events were held, and for Halloween there was a trick-or-treat event for the first time. Director of Community Services for the park, Alex Baumann, says people can enjoy the park in safety.
Sure. So yeah, we have a brand new park, and you can't just let it sit here and go unused, right? The idea is that you want the right kind of people in the park so that the wrong type of people don't come here, right? You keep it busy, you keep it active, families feel safe, and more people start showing up.
New additions to the park like this soccer field are continuing to be added. The city has plans to add an amphitheater for its future musical events with its festivals. Reporting for Valley View News, I'm Giovanni Galvez.
LA County caregivers are pushing for higher wages. The county pays them $16 an hour. That's just 4 cents above the minimum wage. Caregivers wearing purple shirts protested at the LA County Board of Supervisors meeting last month. They're represented by the SEIU union and want to be paid $20 an hour. More than 245,000 people get caregiver assistance through the county. The Department of Social Services says there's more than 200,000 caregivers. LA County's chief executive says the wage demands are being evaluated.
California law will soon maximize health insurance subsidies for workers during labor strikes. Companies freezing benefits for union workers is common during labor disputes. The new requirement will stop employers from revoking benefits by upping the maximum amount of coverage workers can apply for during labor disputes. The bill is supported by the California Labor Federation. Eligible workers will also have their insurance premiums covered. It takes effect next July.
The LA City Council approved the Fair Work Week ordinance. It'll require retail employers to post work schedules 14 days in advance and to give a 10-hour rest periods between work shifts. Councilman Curran Price proposed the ordinance in 2019. He said there are times when concerns about people's needs should be more important than profits. The UCLA study shows that 80% of 140,000 employees in retail have unpredictable working schedules.
More people are using food stamps this year than ever before. Participation in the Federal Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, peaked at 4.9 million people in July. It dropped to 4.6 million in August. SNAP had its highest usage in 2020 during the pandemic when people were given extra money. In California, Governor Newsom said the COVID-19 emergency fund ends in February. The California Food Assistance Program is available to families and people over 55. Including immigrants without documentation.
Some UC graduate workers are still picketing the 10 university campuses. The strike started November 14th and paused during Thanksgiving. 48,000 employees represented by the United Auto Workers include teaching assistants, researchers, and tutors. The UAW demands a $54,000 minimum salary. A union survey found that 92% of graduate workers are rent burdened. UC and the union do agree on working environment and workplace accessibility issues, but the wage proposals remain a sticking point.
The Biden administration is extending the pause on federal student loan repayments while the courts consider the forgiveness program's future. The pause was supposed to expire January 1st, but lawsuits opposing the relief plan forced this latest extension. The administration thinks it's unfair to ask borrowers to pay a debt that likely would be forgiven if it were under $20,000 for some and $10,000 for others. Meanwhile, California lawmakers are preparing legislation to make sure the forgiven debt isn't taxed.
New data shows that community college enrollment dropped to its lowest level in 3 decades. Santa Monica College President Catherine Jeffrey says the pandemic forced many families to reevaluate their educational priorities. Enrollment among 20 to 29-year-olds dropped 50%. Jeffrey says classes for spring 2023 are just 60% enrolled. Pre-pandemic numbers had 80% of students on campus classes, while 20% learned online.
The Franchise Tax Board released its California Inflation Relief Check schedule. Almost 18 million payments will be made. Payments range from $200 to $1,050. Forms of deposits determine payment dates. Payments will go out in last name alphabetical order. Deposits take 3 to 5 days to process. Debit card mail-ins take up to 2 weeks.
Santa Clarita approved a sports complex to expand activities for families. Valley View's Jesse Barrientos reports.
Santa Clarita approved a $3.3 million contract this week for a sports complex in underdeveloped areas. It'll have 3 full-size multi-purpose fields, 1 multi-purpose field, bike paths, a track, and a dog park. Brian Polanese, a coach and trainer, likes this for the kids.
An outlet for kids just to get out and to do more stuff outside of their high schools and outside. That way they can just get out and do more things. I think that's a good thing. 3.3 million, that's a lot. So that's a lot of things that kids can do out here and have fun with.
People gather to play basketball inside the complex or the outdoor courts or even the volleyball courts outdoors. Esteban Vera plays here with his family whenever he's back in town.
This is my first time hearing it, so I'm pretty excited to see what the city has to offer. The basketball courts, a lot of people come to play there. The skate park, I'm excited to see what they have to add with those $3.3 million.
The complex has a small body weight fitness center outside. There are hiking and biking routes, but Polanese says the gym keeps kids busy.
For the kids that have something to do after school, because there's not too many places that we have out here that we can have kids go and play basketball indoors.
All of this represents efforts to budget more money for parks and other outdoor activities in Santa Clarita. A new park is coming on Via Princesa, and now these new additions to the sports complex. There's going to be more outdoor activities in the future with no cost. Reporting from Santa Clarita, I'm Jesse Barrientos, Valley View News.
Gas dropped by 16 cents this past week. The national price is down to $3.61. The American Automobile Association ranks California second in the nation among states with the most expensive gas. The State averaged $5.16 as of November 23rd. Hawaii leads with $5.20. Prices are cheapest in southern states, with prices closer to $3. Texas is the cheapest at $2.95 a gallon.
Chicken prices increased while the cost of beef decreased. Chicken and turkey rose 17% since last year. The cost of beef and veal went down 3.6%. Avian flu affected the prices for chickens used for egg production, so egg prices went up 43%. Chicken feed also increased. Consumers are paying an average of 8% more this year for groceries.
More to come on Valley View News. More than 100 geese and ducks were found dead in Minnesota, and an Arizona community will run out of water by the end of the year.
Coming up on Valley View News, some Inglewood residents are skeptical of Prop 29.
Why are you going to disrupt something that is working?
Plus, there's an increase in fentanyl drug use in Santa Clarita.
It is with the teens. Again, they're buying stuff off of the streets.
And a historic fall festival returns to Los Angeles.
It's just nice to be outside.
Hello and welcome to Valley View News. I'm David Reyes.
And I'm Giovanni Galvez. The City Council passed an ordinance prohibiting pregnancy service centers from issuing misinformation. It's expected to stop the deliberate misleading of people about reproductive health, including abortions. City Attorney Mike Feuer says it comes to reproductive health, time and truth matter most. The ordinance is a response to the Supreme Court's decision to overturn Roe v. Wade. Feuer says some pregnancy crisis centers falsely advertise to women seeking abortion, especially lower-income women. The ordinance will be enforced by Feuer's office. Fines could go up to $10,000, and victims will be able to sue for compensation.
LA City Council member Kevin De Leon says he won't step down despite a public outcry. De Leon is heard on part of the late controversial audio with former council president Neri Martinez, where racist remarks were made. Martinez resigned from their position last week. De Leon says he's sorry. There was public outrage after the audio was released on the media platform Reddit earlier this month. The council's Wednesday's meetings are now being held on private since protesters are causing delays. Also, California's Department of Justice is investigating the city's redistricting policies in response to what was heard on the audio.
California's COVID-19 state of emergency ends in February. The February date gives officials time to handle any potential winter surges. It also allows time for policy changes if needed. California will continue its so-called smarter plan that helps with overall COVID-19 safety efforts. Meanwhile, health officials say people should continue to be mindful of COVID-19. California's state of emergency allowed it to have the lowest COVID-19 death rate among states.
The state is slowly recovering from an estimated $20 billion in fraud stemming from the COVID-19 crisis. The money was stolen by American and international criminals who falsely claimed unemployment benefits. It was the largest reported pandemic-related fraud in the U.S. The U.S. Department of Labor Office of Inspector General says $163 billion of benefits were paid improperly throughout the nation. In addition, Social Security numbers and fake names were used to commit the fraud. The state is working with National Fraud Task Force in the investigation.
This year's ballot includes a proposal that would create a new rule for dialysis clinics. Some neighborhoods are concerned about what those rules could mean for their community. Our Savannah Taylor reports from Inglewood.
Some Inglewood residents are concerned about Prop 29 and the future of local dialysis clinics. Proposition 29 would make it mandatory to have an on-site physician or nurse practitioner while patients are being treated. 20-year resident Ivani Martin says that while 29 may improve quality, closing clinics could be harmful.
We have family members that rely on dialysis, and I see what it does for them. And without having the clinics around, I can't imagine how they would be able to survive.
The California for Kidney Dialysis Patient Program Protection is leading the campaign supporting Proposition 29. It would prohibit clinics from refusing patients care based on methods of payment or insurance policy. Inglewood resident Sharon Kendrick says the clinics are sustainable the way they are.
Why are you still continuously trying to push for something that communities don't need, and what are you doing for the patients? How is that going to affect them? Why are you going to disrupt something that is working?
This is the third time in the last 5 years that a prop like Prop 29 has made it on the ballot. California residents can vote in person at their local elections office until November 8th or by mail until October 24th. For Valley View News, I'm Savannah Taylor.
Latino voter engagement in California is low according to a poll by the Latino Community Foundation. Latinos are the second largest voting group in the state. Their turnout could shift the balance of power in Congress. Inflation and housing are top issues for Latinos. Analysts say there should be more campaign outreach to Latinos on these issues. The Latino Community Foundation poll found that 57% of registered Latinos say they know little to nothing about President Biden's Inflation Reduction Act. 2/3 of registered Latino voters say they'll vote in this year's election. 31% say they're unsure if they'll vote.
The average price of a gallon of gas in LA dropped 34 cents last week. Gas Buddy reports the average price now stands at $5.87. The state also is giving gas cost rebates that go from $200 to $1,000. People who filed a 2020 tax return are eligible. Those who filed as dependents won't get any payments. The cash payouts are part of a June state budget deal.
Your stove might be leaking cancerous causing benzene into your home. Benzene is a carcinogen that could lead to cancers such as leukemia and blood disorder. Researchers estimate over 4 tons of benzene per year are leaked into the atmosphere from outdoor pipes. These pipes deliver the gas to buildings. Samples of gas from over 100 homes were gathered to test what gases were emitted when stoves are off. All of the samples had hazardous air pollutants such as benzene, toluene, and xylene. North San Fernando and Santa Clarita have the highest benzene levels in the state.
October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. An organization called the Stand Up to Cancer is sharing information about various cancer treatments for patients. Our reporter Andrea Gonzalez explains.
The Stand Up to Cancer group funds and develops promising cancer treatments. The organization accelerates the rates of new discoveries because it works directly with scientists. The connection has led to breakthroughs.
We felt that this was an important cause because we want to increase cancer screenings in communities of color throughout Los Angeles, specifically Santa Monica, Venice, West LA.
Dr. Anton Bilchik is the chief of general surgery at Providence St. John Health Center. He's worked with patients such as late actor Chadwick Boseman. He says strides have been made in cancer research, but the search for cancer cure must continue.
We have many more drugs that have been developed that are effective against cancer, but there are very, very few blockbuster drugs. So although we've made progress, we still have a long way to go.
Stand Up to Cancer says it was happy to share cancer and health information during this 2-hour event, especially during the Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
Although cancer is the second leading cause of death in the United States, there are many ways for it to be prevented and being caught early. For more information, please visit standuptocancer.org. Reporting for Valley View News, this is Andrea Gonzalez.
Mental health workers in California voted to end a 10-week strike. Around 2,000 mental health professionals in Northern California ended the strike. The ratifying vote was over 1,000 to 36 votes against. Workers from Kaiser Permanente were on strike. Their union want better working conditions that will improve patient care. There's an increase from 60 to 90 minutes for therapists to assess children. The union says Kaiser will increase its staff. 66 healthcare workers in Hawaii remain on strike against Kaiser.
Wealthy Californians are facing an onslaught of tax-the-rich initiatives and laws. One measure could potentially raise taxes for anyone making more than $2 million a year. Proposition 30 would fund electric charging vehicle stations and wildfire prevention. The measure would add an additional $2 million per year to the budget through January 2043. But Governor Gavin Newsom is against the measure. The governor says it's a cop-out by companies like Lyft to avoid covering their business costs. He says the prop is a Trojan horse that puts corporate welfare above state welfare.
Pacific Gas and Electric might conduct its first public safety power shutoff of the year. It says some areas might be affected by high winds and dry air. The shutoff would be a safety measure to prevent fires. The utility is monitoring the winds. PG&E says if winds stay below 40 miles per hour, there's no need to shut power to neighborhoods. That would be a last resort.
A federal appeals court has temporarily blocked President Biden's student loan forgiveness. The 8th Circuit Court of Appeals will consider a motion from 6 Republican-led states. It's unknown what the appeal means for those who have already applied. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre encourages people to still apply. She says the court's order doesn't prevent people from applying. The Biden administration is battling the legal challenges. The payments are expected to restart next year.
The governor swore in over 3,200 fellows for the Californians for All program. The program is a response to the pandemic. It'll offer up to $10,000 to community, state, and UC students in exchange for a year in community service. Service opportunities include tutoring and mentoring for low-income students in K-12 schools. 10,000 applications have been submitted so far. The program will help ease the financial burden of a college education.
Anonymous flyers in one LA County community ordered residents to hand out Halloween candy. Neighbors in the Bristol Park community of City of Commerce received a flyer that instructed them to participate in Halloween and at certain hours. The flyer said all residents in the Bristol Park community of City of Commerce are obligated to hand out candy on October 31st, 2022. They were told to give out candy between 8 p.m. and midnight. The order was signed by someone called the Neighborhood Watch Captain. Some residents were upset with the flyer. Online reactions ranged from anger to support. The City of Commerce said residents can do as they please on Halloween.
More to come on Valley View News. Russian Siberians seek refuge on American soil, and Mexico is hit with a hurricane. Stay with us.